I am Andrew Leduc,
That's what I love.
Mr. Mallard. Join me as always, Mr. Chief of Morale himself, Bud Copeland. Bud, how are you this evening before we get
So the point being is, good golfers are a fucking dime a dozen, and we saw it in full swing that the line of demarcation between.
here? Are you ready, Bud? Are you ready for the players? Are you ready to make money? Are you ready to try to beat me?
I didn't do my homework this week.
Welcome in, everybody. This is Divots and Pivots here on the Fantasy Sports Corporation Network. I am Andrew Leduc, a.k.a. Mr. Mallard. Bud Copeland with me, as always. And look, Bud, I'm going to steal the thunder of your entrance here because I know this isn't really breaking news, but why the hell not? We don't get to use this often on an 8 o'clock golf show on a Tuesday night, so let's do this. Do you know do you know what the breaking news I'm about to mention here? Can you guess? Because it just dropped about 7:30-ish.
Oh, God, then it can't be Rory's 180.
Well, it is Rory's 180.
I'm so sorry. You had that ready. You're like, I bet Bud hasn't seen this yet.
I know.
I had already moved on to Colin Morikawa and how he's apparently stealing some headlines with his comments. Look, folks, the gloves have come off.
Yes.
The truth is out there. The marriage is in the making. The PGA Tour PIF merger looks like it is finally coming to an end. That's what a lot of this means with Rory's comments. And I think he's the kind of guy who he's exhibited enough character to show that he's not doing this with a gun to his head. He's doing it because it's the right thing to do. Look, I was a little judgmental up front. I understand it better now. You know, I can empathize with some of these guys and the decisions they're making. Ergo, there's no bad blood anymore. I mean, yes, circumstances dictated a lot of this, but at the end of the day, that's what growth is about. You know, sometimes admitting you're wrong, figuring out where that scar tissue is going to heal and then moving forward. I said this from the beginning with Phil. It wasn't what he was saying. It's how he was going about his business. And that's kind of been the argument the whole time, where nobody gives a shit still because there's somebody else who's probably said it or expressed it in a little more diplomatic manner. So the keyboard warriors out there are having a field day. Good for you. I mean, chirp, chirp.
Yeah.
I'm sure, because here's people who want to latch on to the like, oh, look at him eat crow, I think and I'll say this to all of you. I think you're soft, and I think you are a little weak, and I think you lack a little bit of confidence in reality. There is the fun to kind of, same way you bust your buddy's balls when something happens, and he 3-putts, it's like one of those things. It hurts. I'm going to rub it in a little bit, but good on you, move on. Same thing with Rory. Like, damn, dude, that sucks, but good for you. And in case you missed it, Andrew, what is the big news? I just dove right into Rory and, me falling on my proverbial sword for him. But I can tell you right now, morale is not high. Morale is medium at best, because I had some technical difficulties leading into the show. And and that's why I really have to apologize to the dozens watching on YouTube of this low resolution cast that we have coming on tonight. But let's be honest, you're here for the information, you're here for the entertainment, and you're here for the dulcet tones of Mr. Andrew Leduc, aka Mr. Mallard. You tell the folks, what did Rory say? Like, how would you present it? How did you digest it?
So I digested it pretty much the same way I did with what came out just a couple weeks ago about kind of the way he backed down then, if you want to say. But basically what we're talking about here is that Rory just came out. It was released by Paolo Uggetti. I probably said that last name wrong, on ESPN, that Rory says he thinks live defectors should be allowed back if they still have the eligibility and if they choose to want to come back. And he even alludes in his quote here about saying, on this tour, and if they want to come back and play, or you want to try and do something, let them come back. That was the part I picked out as being specifically interesting, because it's almost as if he was throwing the ball back to like everyone who is making the groundwork for this new merger deal, to like, hey, let's just figure this out and move on and get over with it. Because I took that as him saying, yeah, let's figure out something, a path for them, and make it all just live in harmony again.
We would love Speaking of, that is why I'm wearing my Live 2022 Boston t-shirt.
Oh, yeah,
Uh,
you are.
every once in a while, Live deserves, a little more spotlight. Again, knowing their place, and we'll get into some more Live news later. But right now, it's about Rory. And the full quote, real quick, if you'll allow me. Quote:
Yeah.
Guys made choices to go play Live. Guys made choices to stay here. If people still have eligibility on this tour and they want to come back and play, or you want to try and do something, let them come back. I think it's
Mhm.
hard to punish people. I don't think there should be a punishment. Obviously, I've changed my tune on that because I see where golf is, and I see that having a diminished PGA Tour and having a diminished Live Tour or anything else is bad for both parties. It would be much better being together and moving forward together for the good of the game. That's my opinion of it. So to me, the faster that we can all get back together and start to play and start to have the strongest fields possible, I think it's great for golf. Great. We've come full circle. It was fun. Everybody threw some
Yeah.
mud. A lot of people got rich. Tyrrell, since we're already kind of into this, Tyrrell jump ship to Live for
Sure
$50
did.
million. But it's kind of like there was a great meme about it I saw, and I should be jotting these things down, giving guys credits and shout outs and whatnot. But I was a little too kind of enamored by the cuteness of it. It was the scene from Jurassic Park where
Mhm.
a chubby guy, Newman, with the glasses,
Yeah.
sitting on the beach, and he's openly talking about dinosaurs. And the guys he's talking to, he's like, "Shh, keep it down." And he's like, "There's dinosaurs, there's dinosaurs." He's just screaming it out. He's like, "See, nobody cares." And except for there's dinosaurs, he was saying, Tyrrell Hatton's going to Live. Tyrrell Hatton's going to Live. See,
Yep.
nobody cares. And I mean that kind of as a positive and a negative. The negative being, thank you. That's where your place is. It's become the retirement
Mhm.
tour. If anything, the PGA Tour champions should be concerned, not concerned. It's not like they're huge money makers in the grand scheme of things. But,
Yeah.
some of these guys, maybe they will play until they're, well, I guess these contracts are going to expire before they're 50. And now
Yeah.
they'll be able to come back to PGA Tour champions. But who knows? Maybe Liv is going to continue to do this. Just pick off these top 20, top 30 world golf ranking guys who've got a couple of wins, maybe a major here and there, throw that money at them, and so be it. So that's what it ends up being. And that's kind of what Rory's saying. All right, fine. They want to have their little tour. And I like what he said, if you got eligibility, come on back, because
Yeah.
at the end of the day, they're not going to be able to juggle the demands of fully committing to either tour. So I think in our estimate, there is no compromise on the Live side. They've signed on the dotted line. And from what we hear, it's be here, be there. You're playing, no ifs, ands, or buts. I don't see the Live side kind of bending, saying, sure, we'll let you sit out Mayakoba this weekend so you can go play in the Pebble Beach, signature event for the same
Yeah, that
amount of
won't
prize money,
happen.
right? So it's kind of interesting because it's similar to what we said the majors were going to do, and it's what they ended up doing. And if I can just be my little Nostradamus moment, when this whole thing started, I said the majors aren't going to move. They're going to look at this and go, all right, we don't have to change how we do business. You all need to figure out what's going to happen between you. We're just not going to change anything yet. I mean, nothing's set in stone. Who knows? Maybe all of a sudden in the next 2 years, the top 3 points earners on the are invited to the PGA, the way that they kind of do the top 10 here and there to get invites to these majors. So it's moving in that direction. I just don't ever see it, quote unquote, overtaking golf. Look what we've seen in these last few weeks with some of these winners. You got the guy from France who, I mean, everybody was on the,
Mathieu
him.
Pavon.
But yeah, I did love seeing. Did you catch the French announcers?
I
We,
did not know.
we, we,
I do.
we, Miguel Pavon, Miguel
See, we've been
Pavon,
missing that in golf. We have been missing
well,
that in golf.
well, that brings up Colin Morikawa's recent comments where he's talking about that. Like, what are we packaging? What's the product
Yeah.
we're putting out there? Because Rory said it too. These sponsors are going to start, same old song and dance. We're not really getting that bang for our buck anymore. Or just like with the farmers, they have new strategy, new chief executive, new vision. That happens. That's the course of doing business, I guess. Honda's out in South Florida, and now we got the Cognizant Classic or whatever the hell they're calling it. But Colin Morikawa just kind of calling it out too, needing to figure out how do we make this a little more engaging and entertaining. I will say that the whole thing in French, or maybe having it. Try this out for an hour. Find the live. Stick with me. Find the live feed from whatever country that player is playing. Like, find his hometown, even if it's a radio announcer or whatever the hell, and have that when it cuts to that person. You still get Jim Nance, talking about, Murder She Wrote after 60 Minutes tonight on CBS over to the 18th, that kind of, and then when it tosses over there, you get we fabuloso, or you get the Spanish people coming in for Rambo. I don't know. I think it'd be fun. Something a little bit different. I don't think that's what Morikawa is talking about with moving the needle. But how much do we really want to shake up the format of these tournaments if that was the whole argument to begin with?
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to. Like, that's something we've said that was one of the cons that we had against Live was that it was just slightly too different for us to consider it the main competitive version of golf. Like, I don't want to shake up the format too much. Broadcast, there's some stuff you can be doing that you're alluding to, like maybe offer some more global options. That's a bigger thing though. Because now you're talking about create. I don't like there's things you could do that I hope the PGA is looking at, because I think there are avenues to grow the game still. I'm not convinced that the format of these tournaments and stuff is necessarily the first thing that should be looked at though. I just think there's other whatever you want, fields of change that need to happen first.
What we're talking about here is they're gonna end up reviving the WGCs, the World Golf Championships.
Correct.
So that way,
which I'm fine with.
Yeah, fine. Who cares if that's what we're talking about, like that Super Seniors Champions League or whatever the hell they want to call it, and model it however you want. But at the end of the day, that's kind of what we're ended up looking at is 5 or 6 a year. Maybe there's like 2 hosted by Live and 4 hosted by the PGA Tour alliances, and then so you got those 6 World Golf Championships. We're just going to revive them. The WGCs are back, folks. And, one's a team event, one's a match play event, and then 4-stroke play events. But sorry, weenies, you gotta walk 72 holes. Bring those back and have those just be the creme de la creme from all the tours around the world. And that's what we did basically for a while. Tiger cleaned up on those. I think that's a sneaky stat right there. He won something like 18 or 20 WGCs in that same kind of that run. So they're going to bring that back. That's what it's going to be, because then between those and the majors, you are going to have 10, and then maybe organically, like the Players Championship opens it up to a handful of Live guys or whatever it might be. But that's how you're going to get your 10 to 12 elite fields, globally each year. And then these guys are just going to carry a heavy load, elsewhere with the demands that, whatever tour is putting on them. But I think that's that mutual understanding that it's going to come to, and they're going to call it. They're going to auction it off to someone, and it's going to be the whatever cup, kind of like they got the Rolex Series for the DP World Tour, the FedEx Cup for the PGA Tour. They're going to call this something, and that's what this new for-profit entity. That's what it's going to be generating revenue towards.
So yeah, well, I saw something interesting on Twitter, and I wish I remembered exactly which Live account it was, because it was one of them, and I can't remember exactly which one, but they just simply put like the top 15 currently on the PGA up right next to a list of the top 15 on the Live Tour right now, as if they were going head to head as 2 teams. And I looked at that list on both sides and said, hell, that looks like a hell of a good time to watch. And it got me thinking, like, hell, would it be the worst idea to just lean into it, a PGA v Live tournament every year or every other year, whatever you like, whether you do it Ryder Cup style or whether you just do it as a tournament, whatever, but make it so that it's the top 13 guys on the PGA Tour up against the 13 guys from the Live. And the way that Live can do it is that each team can nominate one person from their team to represent them, and that's 13 versus 13, and boom, and it's both sides get something out of that, Yeah, both sides get something out of it. I would tune into that. I think that sounds interesting.
Boom. Well, there you have it right there too. If I'm the PGA Tour, I've already got and who knows with the direction of TV rights. We see this in coming up in a lot of sports here, especially like I don't know how the NFL gets away with the sheer volume. I mean, because we're gluttons. We love the NFL. We can't, my family's from Detroit. It's been the tech.
Look, I think all of America outside of San Fran and Kansas City has been because everyone wanted Detroit. Come on.
Man, I heard there's a show I watch, and the guy kind of quasi roasts his guests when he introduces them. He was introducing one. He said, what did he say? Just like the Detroit Lions, she's from Detroit and not going to the Super Bowl. And I was like, oof, this is going to be, because it's not like they just lost. It's not like they went in there and got beat, 42 to 15 or 15. They choked. They were there. There were people. I would freaking love to see the Google activity from right around halftime to see what the flight searches were like. Where were they? You know, who was
Oh
searching
yeah.
from where? What were the prices? That's what I
What
want to see.
tattoos were
Somebody get a
gotten, what mid-game tattoos.
that would actually be an interesting take. All right, so tier
It's
was
good.
going to live. We can knock that off the
Yep.
list because the real live news was much more around Rory's comments, kind of signaling
Last
that you
minute.
know what, enough's enough. So, which brings me up to another Rory related kind of segue. Grayson Murray back in the news. And Grayson was famously the guy last year. We've already been through this one earlier this year. Last year at the players' meeting after the announcement with the PIF, you know, Jay, you suck. You need to resign. I don't think he said you suck, but he basically said, we can't trust you anymore. Like, you owe us. And Rory just shouted from the front, hey, Grayson, play better. But, you know, being like, and apparently it was cordial and everything like that. Well, Grayson Murray did play better, and now he is on the Player Advisory Council. Andrew, would you like to explain to our fans what, or remind them, because listen, if you're listening to this, you probably have some tangential knowledge of the Player Advisory Council on the PGA Tour, or you're related to one of us. But do you want to educate the class?
Sure, I can, and then you're probably going to correct me. I mean, they're basically the liaisons between the executives and the players themselves. I mean, it's all it is.
That's it.
It's the student council of your high school. It's what they are.
Shots fired. Student council. Come on.
No,
They've got to be.
I'll have you know, that's not shots fired. I was okay.
So we're talking. Hold on. We're talking
my
like high. Like I mean, I was part of the. What's high level? Are we talking like post like high school, or are we talking about like college? I got to know where we're drawing.
I'm talking high school. In high school, for instance, I was on the state executive board for all of Massachusetts for student council. Like,
that's fair.
I was the president of a region, so I meant that in no disrespect. That was like you're the liaison between two different groups of people.
No, I mean, I did when you said it. I thought it was a nice shot, but anyway, the the Player Advisory Council, you're right. They're the liaisons between it's 16 players, and they meet in kibitz, and like they try to advise Jay Monahan on you know, how to run things. Because then there are the player directors who sit on the policy board. Not the policy board is the actual like board of directors. Funny enough, they were listing out all the policy board members and their dates of tenure or whenever their office their term is. And, you know, Jordan Spieth is on there, popping in there for Rory. So his says like 23, 24, because at the end of this year, whoever gets nominated or elected from the Player Advisory Council as chairman gets slided into that spot. And next to Tiger's name, there were no dates. It just says Tiger Woods. You know, everybody else has their start and end dates, and then there's just and I found
he's always been there, and he's never going anywhere. So.
Yeah. I did find that interesting with this kind of like emeritus position. So Grayson Murray, Kevin Streelman, some guy named Teeter. I didn't know we had a Teeter on tour, but Josh Teeter. Where are we? Here we go. The tour announced Josh Teeter. 2024. So it's Lanto Griffin, Grayson Murray, Sam Burns, Nick Hardy, Brian Harmon, Max Homa, Mac Hughes, Keith Mitchell, Seamus Power, Scotty Scheffler, Adam Shanks, Kevin Streelman, Nick Taylor, Josh Teeter, Justin Thomas, and Camilo Villegas. They got a good mix of different tiers of golfers in there. Like that. I'm assuming that was the point, but that's a good mix. Yeah, whether intentionally or unintentionally, because there is something to be said about the let them eat cake attitude of just play better, Grayson. And again, I think that was meant in jest, and they talked about it later, and apparently it was all fun. But you can get in that realm of, you know, the top 25 make all the decisions, they reap all the rewards. So why wouldn't they win the PIP every year and do all this? And with this new entity coming, I think that's also where you're going to see maybe a stronger concentration of the more, you know, the best of the best, the top gun of the tour, if you will, you know, kind of having their representation, because there is that trickle down effect. What we're seeing is the PGA Tour, you know, I think in a global sense I think it's showing just how good the golfers are out there with Nick Dunlap, with these new faces winning, you know, these kind of not coming out of nowhere, but it's not gobbled up by the elite best of the best. Then some would argue, because most of them are over on Live right now. But they're in this moment of kind of where they fit in. I don't think that they have a stranglehold, say, week in, week out on the elite, because you can't deny some of the names that are missing, like this week at Pebble Beach. Perfect example. This is a kind of place that you'd love to see Brooksy and Bryson,
Yeah,
and maybe DJ still taking a stab at, because they're that good at the sport, and they're not necessarily horses for courses. They're just gods amongst
yeah,
men. But we don't, and they made that choice. So objectively, you have to say, of course, it's a little weaker. But then we see a kid like Nick Dunlap come out, and that's where my counter argument always comes back. Is it weaker, or is it just that you'll find out real quick that those guys aren't necessarily unicorns? We've had a Tiger, a Jack, a Ben Hogan, a Bobby Jones. There's one kind of sprinkled through, but they all can't be that guy. They all can't be him.
yeah.
And
It's the
so,
reason why most
so
guys don't win more than once in a calendar year on tour. I mean, even the best of the best sometimes only win once, if at all.
yeah, JT didn't Justin Thomas last year. We would judge his year just horrible. He didn't even make the FedEx Cup
Yeah,
playoffs. Take 3 steps back. He finished 71st in the money list, millions of dollars. Any other golfer or human being, layperson would look at that. And so you do have to also remind ourselves of relativity there, and what's important to who, because there are plenty of guys like Kevin Kisner talks about that, he's paying, what do you say? 20th place pays pretty good out here. Not
yeah,
lying, a couple hundred
yeah,
grand, these guys are millionaires, and they play golf to do it. Again, not to minimize just how hard it is or what they do. So it is good to
yeah.
see, Josh Teeter out there. And you know what? We're going to find out who Josh Teeter is, and we're going to
Yeah,
give
we
you
have
all
to now.
now we have to figure out what's going on with Teeter, but we don't have that kind of time tonight. So Kevin Streelman and Camilo Villegas have been are the two that I guess the player directors kind of nominated, or I don't know how it works, if it's an official thing or if they just kind of say like, hey, we think it should be one of these two guys. But there will be a vote, I guess, by end of February, and one of them will be elected as the chairman of the Player Advisory Council, and then fill in. They sit on a board for a term after Jordan Spieth finishes Rory's current term. So that's the big,
All makes sense.
nerdy, wonky news coming out of the PGA Tour. And again, last thing on this, that little bit of nerddom, that little bit of kind of behind the scenes structure and access, and relatability, I mean, immediately you're like, oh yeah, no, I get it. Like I sat on the executive council for, the state of New Hampshire Student Council, which that's the kind of relatability that I think that in a weird way that the PGA Tour will still always have. No matter how
Yeah,
commercialized it becomes and how much money they make, the structure is something we can relate to versus, I mean, again, the
but a
quality
few
of
32 billionaires sitting in a room making all the decisions, like in the NFL.
I'm telling you, yeah, exactly. Well, even but you can play, you go play football, and you have a local team. I'm talking about then the live is kind of like this elite. Imagine you were playing little league or some sport like that. It's like some elite billionaire was like, hey, I'm going across the country and plucking out the best players. We're only going to play a handful of tournaments, in places you've never been to, but I'm going to pay you a bunch of money, or, whatever. It, that's what they're doing, but what does it all really mean? Not a whole lot. We don't know how it works. And it's still weird and super new. So I still, it is what it is. And like Rory's saying, I guess we just have to live with it and make space for it. I can see that the quality of golf is still there. I still just don't think the product of live is anything to really shake a stick at.
Correct. No, I completely agree, and I think we can be done talking live for the show. I think we hammered it. I think we've already talked
Never,
much more than we
never.
planned on
I'm
it,
going into part 2 here in just a second. No,
and I'm much more excited to talk about the next things we're going to talk about, because I thought this was a great idea you came up with for this week. If you're ready to get into our foursomes, and
yeah,
speaking of
absolutely.
foursomes, get over to dc4lcustomtees.com to get your divots and pivots merch. Morning Wood right here. You can see behind me the sweatshirts, the t-shirts, the crew cut sweaters, and the coffee mugs, as you can see Bud holding up to the screen here. Morning Wood, all the divots and pivots merch. There'll be more added to that as well, not just Morning Woods. So you can get it all there. But let's talk foursomes, because you had and this question's been asked many times before. I think I've given a completely different answer every
It's
single
never
time
old.
for every single one of these categories, but because it's Pro-Am week, our celebrity foursome. Let's start there, because we'll do our pro foursome, both living and dead. So let's get into our celebrity foursome. I'll tell you right now, for all three of these categories, I kind of went with the mindset of I want someone who is actually decent at golf. I want someone who is there for the trash talk / humor aspect, and I want someone there who is going to be telling all the interesting, crazy stories. Like, I thought of it as a whole experience. So for me, my celebrity foursome: Justin Timberlake, Michael Jordan, and Charles Barkley, because JT is just fun to be around from what I can tell. I've seen him on the golf course videos of him. It looks like a ton of fun. Michael Jordan, the gambler, the trash talker, the kind of crazy man that he is. And Charles Barkley, just because that's a mixture of the humor, and he's going to trash talk with Michael, and that would just be fun to witness. So that's my celebrity foursome that I'd like to play with.
I like that. I like the MJ thing. My first thought was, who's going to bet with MJ?
Yeah.
I don't know if JT. I mean, I'm sure he's competitive, but I don't know if he rolls like that, 300 grand a hole and stuff. That'd be fun. I went with the approach of, I wanted some folks who were good. I wanted two guys who were as good, if not better than me, and I found two that are absolutely better than me. They're both plus handicaps, and they're names that you're going to know, obviously, because they're celebrities. And we're doing this because the AT&T Pebble Beach is a Pro-Am. We'll talk about that in a little bit when we get to the structure of the field and what's significant about it. So I started off with, I wanted a couple of guys who are as good, if not better. And then I wanted somebody who's going to make me laugh. And I don't care if they're good or not. And Jason Bateman filled that one. I've seen him at the Pro-Am. So he plays golf. He's funny as shit. I think he's one of the funniest humans alive.
I know. I love Jason Bateman. He's great.
Sneaky good in this movie Smoking Aces. It's like this over the top assassin movie. He's freaking hilarious. It's a great cameo at the beginning. But anyways, so Jason Bateman, and then I went with Tony Romo and John Smoltz, who both are famously excellent professional sports athletes, Hall of Famers. TBD on Tony, but they're definitely plus handicaps, and they've competed at this level before. Because here's my theory: if I can get the two of them competing and kind of going at it with one another, maybe one of them makes a mistake, or they don't see me kind of coming on the outside trying to sneak in some 10-footers. Like, on my best day, I would have to be on my best, and I would have to catch them like kind of limping or distracted, and I might be able to have a shot. But I think that would be it for me: John Smoltz, Tony Romo, and Jason Bateman. So then naturally we go back into, those are the three celebrities who would round out another foursome, but this time pro golfers living. And you did the last one first, so I'll lead off here. Mine's pretty simple. They're just three that I'm infatuated with their games, and then their swings and their stories. And so it's Tiger. Duh. I mean, just for me as growing up, a fanatic, and to walk 18 holes and kind of hear him talk about the game. And then you need somebody who he's going to do that with, and that'd be Justin Thomas. JT and Tiger have this big brother, little brother relationship. I'd love to be around that. And then I had Freddie in the third spot, and I backed out at the very last minute, and I put Nelly Korda in there. And it's because, first of all, she's got probably one of the best swings of any human alive. And it's elegant and it's powerful. And she won this last week in a magnificent recovery. She blew a 3-stroke lead. Then she finishes eagle birdie to force a playoff. Shouts to Nelly Korda.
Shouts to Lydia Ko, who was trying to go back to back, and as we mentioned last week, this would have been her last point needed to get in the Hall of Fame. So she's obviously going for it. She's on a heater right now, so I don't think we're done hearing from Lydia Ko for this year.
So JT, Tiger, and Nelly, and because I've also seen these stories where at some of these co-ed events or at the Olympics where people are just sitting there staring at Nelly Korda's swing, because it's just on repeat and it's perfect. And she's just this like tall, slender thing. And when you see her hit a golf ball, you're like, what? And then you just feel so inadequate as a man. All right. So I love your living three, because you saw the direction I took. And I think you took a totally different approach. And I think that speaks to our backgrounds in the game.
Yeah. Well, I took kind of the similar approach that, like I said, I was going to take. I wanted really good. Now, granted, these guys are all obviously really good at golf, but I went John Daly because I want someone to pound beers with who's going to be betting and who's going to be an absolute ride and have a bunch of fun. I went John Rahm because, and look, I will say I wanted to put Tiger because obviously I want to play golf with Tiger. Who doesn't? If you're a golf fan, I was just trying to think outside the box for myself, because I felt like everyone was going to expect me to put Tiger. So I went John Rahm because John Rahm has been in a ton of different creative aspects around golf on YouTube and in different formats lately. The man is a fun trash talker. He's got this side of him that we don't get to really see on the cameras. So John Rahm, I have him in there for the trash talking, and then Nick Faldo, because I want that guy who's going to have the stories we've never heard, who's going to be able to probably go back and forth with Daly a little bit with some stories as well. So I just thought a balance of John Daly, John Rahm, and Nick Faldo would just be a fun day.
I actually like that a lot. Love the Rombo
and who
call.
Who doesn't want to play golf with a knighted man? Like, also, you got that Sir Nick Faldo. I want that on my golf cart.
So, do you call him Sir, even though you are not subject to the British Crown? Do you do it
No,
just out of respect?
I do not. I just know that's how he's referred. So I will in this case, when it's convenient for me and good for my argument, I will refer to him as Sir.
It's like meeting a doctor from a third world country and you just call him by his first name. By the way, we're getting John Rahm back in golf down at Mayakoba. Liv kicks things off this week, so set your reminders to get on YouTube. What am I saying? I'm hoping people are watching this on YouTube. All right, and so then last but certainly not least, and I don't know if you understood the assignment.
Apparently not, because I'm seeing now the pro part, and I obviously did not go.
Here's the thing, though. Here's the thing, though. I can't argue with your threesome. Like when I saw it,
I thought you would like this one.
It actually is kind of like an homage to my parents in a weird way, because when you walk in my parents' house, before you see any of the pictures of their children, you see a framed picture of one of these guys, and it's signed. So go ahead. I thought your three, and these were celebrity past, or no, these were pros. Sorry, not celebrities, pros.
They were supposed to be pros. I took the celebrity approach though. But those who have passed on. So Arnold Palmer, for the golf reasons we've already mentioned. Arnold Palmer, just that would just be hell, just to take a walk with him. Forget playing golf. I'd love to just take a walk with him. That would have been great. And then I took a little turn. I went Frank Sinatra, because once again, as my theme with these groupings, the stories that man probably has from his days in showbiz and whatnot, and music. Frank Sinatra, that would be, I just think, would be cool and interesting. And then to kind of balance that off, Robin Williams, for the sole reason, well, I shouldn't say the sole reason, but for the first reason that came to my head is because I literally will want to hear him tell the invention of golf joke on a golf course and just live in that moment. Because it's still, I think, one of the funniest and most well-constructed jokes of all time. It's up there.
It's a good bit of comedy, and it's a great bit of golf lore. You chose Robin Williams for the same reason I chose Jason Bateman. It would honestly, if you could finish a sentence with anything you want. If you say, hey, do you want to go with Robin Williams and do X? Yep. And I don't mean like do ecstasy. I just mean fill in the blank. All right. My pro past foursome, Bobby Jones, Walter Hagen, and Francis Ouimet. It's the heart of American golf, the foundation of kind of what those three really launched things for American golf, between Francis Ouimet and his amateur victory at the Open, between Walter Hagen and really helping the development of the PGA of America and making professional golf I'm not going to say respectable, because it was never not respectable, but make it a more kind of understood profession and organized. And then obviously Bobby Jones, like I say, we have once every we have one of these guys every few generations, and I wouldn't even put Walter or Francis obviously up there in the tier with Bobby Jones. No. Jack Nicklaus, and then Tiger Woods, and we don't have the next one yet, but I think we might in some of these, in some of this good talent that's coming up. So there you have it, Bobby, Walter, and Francis. And now let's hear from Underdog.
Well, yeah,
you didn't know I was going to pitch it.
Well, no, you went right into it, because I really fast want to say I also almost put Francis Ouimet on there as well. I was tossing him back and forth, so I'm glad that he was represented and you added him in there for all the reasons you said. Now, if you'd like to pitch it again, we can hear from Underdog.
Fantasy Sports Corp and Underdog Fantasy have teamed up to start your fantasy season off in the win column with Best Ball. What is Best Ball? It's quite simply the easiest way to win. No team management, no trades, no waivers. It's their biggest contest ever, and it has only gotten bigger. You simply have to sit and win. You don't even have to set your lineup. Always get your best score every week. Just enter a contest, draft your team, and Underdog will do the rest. What could make this even better? How about free money, up to $100 using our exclusive promo code? Go online now and use the promo code DIVPIV to double your deposit up to $100. You tell them Gingerbread sent you. Good girl.
And it is the AT&T Pebble Beach Pro-Am. So yes, that means right there in the title, we're going to Pebble Beach. And first, can I just say, shame on us, shame on us, shame on us. How did we not get Cutter on here for this episode? The caddy from Pebble Beach. Like, shame on
He
us is all I have
he
to say.
he's probably pretty busy right now, I'd imagine, with the
Oh,
tour and
he's got it off. He's
excuse me,
off.
what? He's
He
not
said
on a bag?
he's got time off. I could
Motherf
have sworn I saw him post on Twitter or Facebook earlier saying
Shout
he's got some time off.
shouts Cutter the caddy. Yeah, we gotta get him back on, and, maybe we can get some kind of post-game analysis of, the Pebble
Yeah.
Beach here soon. No,
But let's get
like
into
you
the
said,
course,
we're
yeah.
back at Pebble Beach, and it is what it is. It's the Pebble Beach Pro-Am. They have 80 guys in the field, and I said that earlier about why that's significant. This is these signature events are going to be the only full field events are going to be Tigers, Jacks, and Arnold Palmer's. Those three are going to be full field events with cut and everything like that. Everybody else can be these like limited field, no cut
Yeah.
events, but this one's a little bit bigger because it is a pro-am. So they have 80 spots instead of 60 to 70 that you'll see elsewhere because it's going to be the top 50 from last year's FedEx Cup. And then they've got these Aon, swing 5 and next 10. And,
Mhm.
then there's sponsors exemptions and stuff like that. So they got 80 guys in the field, which there was a fascinating thing about Keith Mitchell, who was in the field. And then when Justin Timberlake, then when Nick Dunlap won and turned pro, he automatically got that signature, invite
Oh,
to the
yeah.
signature, and that bumped Keith Mitchell
Keith
out.
Mitchell out.
But then with like the swing 5 or whatever the hell they're calling
Play
it,
play better, Keith.
Justin Thomas moved into the top 30. So that's how he got his spot in this week's field.
Mhm.
So that opened up Justin Thomas's spot that would have been on, I guess, the swing 5. That's where
Yeah.
Pavon or whoever kind of came in there. And then because then that moved things around. So like there's all sorts of weird reasons. Hey now that these guys make this field. There's 80 of them this week. They are playing with celebrities. They're going to play 2 days. This thing used to be around 3 different courses, and they're changing that up
Yep.
even where it's going to be 2 days, 1 day at Pebble Beach, 1 day at Spyglass, and then the Saturday, Sundays, both at Pebble. No celebrities, just all go, no quit, big nuts, PGA Tour golf for you.
Yeah.
Back to the fact that it's Pebble. This
Yeah.
is what we know about Pebble. It's on the water, so if it's windy, it's hard as shit.
Yep. It's
It
often
has
windy.
the smallest greens. It's right on the fucking Pacific. Smallest
Yep.
greens on the PGA Tour. Averages something like 3,000 square feet, 3,500 square feet, something like that. Not that that's a frame of reference where people can just envision that they're tiny greens
But
comparatively
if you watch any of the broadcasts this weekend, you will notice a difference just with your eyes when you look at them. They look a lot smaller than a normal course.
Yeah, and they're not necessarily super fast with this Poa Nanua or
Yep.
whatever Poa Anua grass. But the rough around that place can get penal, and for a signature event like this is what I'm curious about. Did they allow them to go that little bit extra that give it not necessarily U.S. Open length, but saying that it is a signature event? This is going to be our shining moment, so let's toughen it up a little bit. So tiny greens, not overwhelmingly long, but if the wind plays a factor in, it can be. And then basically who's got a good short game this week. That traditionally is how you win moving around Pebble Beach.
Yeah, no, you nailed it, and I think that leads right into at least the key stats that I followed when picking my guys this week for all the reasons you just said. I mean, the biggest one is the green sizes for me because you've got to have guys who can pick a spot and hit it or at least hit it roughly close. And when it comes to the wind, like we said, the wind is so unpredictable. So that's an unpredictable part about Pebble this week. We'll see. But I would say bet on wind. And that's when the stars of the tour will typically shine, is playing in that wind. And don't forget, a lot of European guys will shine and win because they grew up playing in wind on link style courses. So this is another thing just to kind of keep in the back of your mind. So when we go into our key 3 stats here, I know for me, as always, putting and approach is in there, but I doubled up on even approach and I went ball striking, strokes gained ball striking. And then you could even look at this next one as a triple up on approach into these greens because I went with approach shots proximity 100 to 125 yards out. So I'm really banking on guys who are going to be hitting these irons and these wedges consistent and accurately this week, and then follow that up with par fours 400 to 450, because that is the majority of this course is in that yardage.
Which is a ho-hum par 4 for these guys. Leaves them with about a buck 20 wedge in their hand. Well done, Andrew. And I also like the links reference, because this is basically the only links style course that is a staple on the PGA Tour, and you do see the European guys have a little bit of an edge, especially in the windy conditions. So well done.
It was Justin Rose last year, right? Was this the one he won last year?
Yeah, Justin Rose won last year. He is not in my emergency 9, but he would not be a bad play. He isn't playing horrible right now. And again, horses for courses, or at least familiarity. And but the weather is going to be shite, is what they would say overseas. It's going to be shite. Looks like it's going to be 55 degrees and rainy and windy. So yeah, and the funny thing is
miserable on the Pacific.
Knowing that, though, you do think about it. You want to go with guys who might be familiar with that kind of weather. But this is also where you got to be creative. You got to be able to recover, scramble, all that kind of stuff. I kept it simple. And I went strokes gained ball striking, which again, off the tee and approach. There it is. Yeah. It's up there with like a tee to green, strokes gained tee to green.
Yeah. I will say these fairways aren't the hardest to hit, and they're fairly easy when it comes to tour standards. So just keep that in mind as well.
Yeah. So I got so I got strokes gained ball striking. That one's up there. Strokes gained putting and strokes gained around the green. And I'm just trying to keep it as simple as humanly possible. Not trying to overanalyze, because again, a course like this that folks are familiar with, and I am going with a couple of gut shots in my emergency 9 here in a second, but mostly I did lean on that to guide the first few picks. But then after that, I kind of went off script for different reasons. But that's it, folks. Keep the ball in play, and keep your wits about you, and hope that you can sink some 20 to 30 footers, and you might have a chance around Pebble Beach.
Yeah, and that's true. And using those key stats, they are the key things that we use to pick out our emergency 9. I don't appreciate the laughing, because I recognize how fumbled that was as I lost my train of thought. But anyways, back to the emergency.
No.
Wait, what was that?
I like that you came back to start it off fresh. We're gonna do it live, damn it. 3, 2, 1.
And of course, when you give me the actual countdown there, my mouse button decides to not properly work. Whatever. That's what we do here on Divots and Pivots. We have fun. Let's get into the emergency 9 though, because I unfortunately I wrote my list backwards, so I gotta read it from the bottom, because we go from 9 to 7 first. I feel like looking at my list, I do have a kind of solid mix of American golfers and European Tour bred golfers, so I find that interesting. So we'll see. But my number 9 is Ludwig Aberg. My number 8 is Eric Cole, and my number 7, first appearance on the list this year, but I'm sure it won't be his last, is Viktor Hovland. I just think these are, like I said, I'm going for the guys that can hit those wedges and irons close and accurate, and guys that are used to weather. So Aberg, Cole, and Hovland. I think Cole has made it on all my emergency 9s to start the year this year. All 5. I think he has.
You kept him around after last week. I appreciate that.
I know.
About you. All right. Boudreaux's 9, 8, and 7. Nick Dunlap. How can you not? It's his first. I'm just hoping for a good story, and I'm pulling for karma there. Hideki Matsuyama. He had a shitty return to golf, and then he's ripped off a 30th and a 13th. And when he's on that kind of trajectory, he can place the ball anywhere he wants it, which is what you need around Pebble Beach. And then Jordan Spieth. He has a great history here. Yes, he was 63rd last year, but then he's got a second, a T3, a T9. I believe he's got a victory here in the past. I could be wrong about that one, but I do know that the kid can scramble, and this is the kind of course that he can do well on.
I'll tell you, is there a better scrambler on tour than Jordan Spieth? I feel like that's what he's made his career off of, is the scrambling.
He's the guy that they would say, like back in the 90s, you would ask who's the best putter, and they would say Brad Faxon. Who's the best wedge player? Maybe Justin Leonard. For a long time, everybody would say they would take Tigers. But yeah, what's his kind of signature move is his short game. Rory's known for his driver. Jordan's known for his short game.
Yeah, no, it makes sense, and it's it's hurt Spieth at times, and it's saved him at others. So that's just what you get when you do that. Who are you rolling with for 6 to 4?
So all these guys are in the top 20 of my model, and starting with Fairway Jesus, Tommy Fleetwood. He was hot over in Dubai, pun intended.
Yeah.
Had a close call there with Rory sneaking in, and then right above him, Justin Thomas. He's on the mend. He's on his way back. He sat out last week because he had already qualified for this week, so I guess he's feeling comfortable and good about his game, which makes me feel good about life. And then I'm right there with you, Ludwig Aubert. I guess Aubert is what I heard.
Is it
But
Aubert now?
I don't fucking know.
I thought we had it with Aubert. Damn. Okay.
Yeah, we'll figure out golf someday. But I think that he's going to figure it out again soon. He's playing well, and he keeps his name on the front page of the leaderboard enough to make me feel comfortable to continue to pick him.
Yeah, no, I think that makes perfect sense. Obviously, I had him in mind, so you ride the hot hands, and I don't think there's fewer hotter names than Abear in golf right now when you look at it from a global standpoint. My 6 to 4 goes with Rory McIlroy, Sam Ryder, and Max Homa. And Max Homa I love because he tends to play his better golf on the West Coast, it seems, and I think that this just seems to shape up well for him. This week, Sam Ryder's a bit of a dart throw. He's one of those guys that I tend to not pick right. I miss on the weeks I pick him, he does bad. The weeks I don't pick him, he shows up. So we'll see if I get him right this week. But yeah, McIlroy, Sam Ryder, and Max Homa for me for my 6 through 4. And then I guess you already gave us your 6 through 4. Yeah, but bring us to our 3 to 1 here. And this is where I'm going to top
3, 2, 1.
I'm going top heavy for my 3 to 1 here because I got Scotty Scheffler at my number 3. I got Adam Scott, who, if you're playing DraftKings this week, Adam Scott, I believe, was only like 7,000 on DraftKings. I feel like that's a steal. I feel like that he shapes up well for this scenario this week in between the weather and the course type. And then my number 1, Xander Schauffele. He's just playing really well right now, and I was on him last week. I think the week before that too. So I'm gonna stick with it. So Xander, Scott, and Scheffler are my top 3 of my emergency 9.
Something that jumped out to me was when you look at the field history of this event, Rory absent the last 5 years, if ever. Scotty Scheffler, same. Xander, not here. JT, not here. Colin, not here. So it is guys like Jordan Spieth, Patrick Cantlay, even Jason Day, who've got a little more history. But just found that interesting because Jordan Spieth kind of jumped him into my model, and then I saw that he ranked out high enough in my model to warrant a head nod, and here we are, 3, 2, 1. Victor Hovland sneaks in at number 3 for me. Similar reasons as what you said, but also he has won on Pebble before. This is where he won his U.S. Amateur back before he turned pro. So again, maybe a little horse for course, or at least nostalgia there. And then my top 2, Xander Schauffele. He's going to pop pretty soon. His recent history and his form is right there. 9th at the Farmers, 3rd at the Amex, 10th at the Century. And then I agree with you, Max Homa, number 1. I keep calling him the California kid for a reason. This is where he wins. And he's not exactly playing bad, 13th, 14th, 7th, but he's, gaining 6 strokes on the field, 9 strokes on the field, 8 strokes on the field. So he's right there in a position with Xander.
Yeah. No, Max Homa seems like just a smart player for the same reasons I said as well. I do have an interesting question when it comes to, because this is a Pro-Am. And do you think there's guys that in those first 2 days with the celebrity partners or so, do you think playing with a celebrity like that, obviously these golfers are celebrities in themselves, so I'm sure they're not starstruck, but do you think there's an element of either some of these guys might be more comfortable playing with a celebrity amateur, or more nervous? Like, is there anyone you can think of that you think would fall into where it would actually affect them? Because I kind of have always viewed it to where it doesn't really play an effect into the outcome of the weekend.
The hardest part about this week for these guys isn't necessarily the fact about who they're playing with, whether they're, really good or whatever, because most of them do get into that tunnel vision or in the moment. And they, they're pros for a reason. It's not like they get really nervous other than the first tee, and then they get out there and they do their thing. and I'm sure that yes, a celebrity might keep them on their toes, but the length of these rounds, because they're playing in foursomes, they're not used to sometimes that's the one thing you'll hear them to bring up, these 5.5 to 6 hour rounds. You match that with sometimes the morning fog delays, and now we got rain on the horizon, and it can make for some very, very long days around Pebble Beach. So that's going to be really, I think, that you're going to hear people kind of talk about and maybe bitch about more so than anything.
No, that makes sense because these guys are so regimented and what they're used to. They're going through the motions, like how their body feels after a certain amount of time. I mean, they're used to having their even like certain snacks or lunches, if you want to call it, their sandwiches after certain holes in the tournament. Like that's just part of their routine. I'm sure some of that's going to be thrown off. Like, well, so I hadn't thought about that aspect of it, but that's
I mean,
very good point to bring up.
imagine this. You know how you have some of those days at work where you have to be on the whole day, and you know what I
Yeah.
mean, where you have that mode of like whether you're at a conference or you might be presenting in front of clients or something, and you just have a day where you're just constantly on. And then at the end of the day, when you sit down and you're like, oh, I didn't really physically do that much today, but I'm freaking exhausted. Yeah, I mean, that's the same thing with these guys where their bodies, like you said, might be regimented or ready for a 4.5, 5 hour round. And again, when that starts, going into 5.5, 6 hours, and when I say 55 degrees, but it's 55 degrees and like wet and windy
Yeah.
in kind of a cold 55. I mean, so it's not exactly the loveliest, the loveliest place to be this time of year. Shout PGA Tour. But I am glad to see them give it a signature event, because the location, I think that's going to be something again moving forward with how do you keep the PGA Tour significant when it's going up against Liv. Nobody gives a rat's ass that Liv is playing Mayakoba down in Mexico, and I don't think the PGA Tour is sad that they lost that as a venue for the Mexican Open, or not the Mexican Open, the used to be called the Mayakoba.
Yeah.
But I think the more you might see this, where how can we, these gems, it's the same reason they put Harbor Town back on the kind of top tier signature event series, because it's a Pete Dye course. It's a gem. There's tradition there. So that's one way they're going to rope these guys into it, but it's also a way to keep it accessible. No disrespect to the John Deere, but truth gun to your head, where is it played? I don't know, somewhere in the Midwest. Probably super nice course too, but I think it's one of the TPC network of courses. There's nothing significant about it. And so that's the kind of place, the Barracuda out in the Bahamas at a resort course where there's nothing too memorable about it. So that's what I think they're trying to do with this signature event series.
And it makes sense. And let's be honest, the true, I'm going to stop myself. I'm not going to say true golf fans. Golf fans, part of what they do enjoy watching, at least I do enjoy watching when watching golf, is the scenery of whatever golf course they're on, because there are certain courses that just have those distinguishable views or camera angles or holes. Like that's enjoyable, and it's not a mistake that broadcast puts up featured holes, like where the camera stays on these holes. Like it's all on purpose. It makes sense. Get the most picturesque historic courses out there. And so, yeah, I agree. The signature events that they're doing right now, it's making sense. It's working. Pebble Beach is always going to be there. That I still think that they didn't have to give it the signature status because I think it was going to draw anyways. But maybe I'm wrong, because you just said before that there's guys who haven't been there in the past couple of years. Between Rory and Scheffler, and so maybe it did change it. Maybe all of a sudden they're here because of the signature. Like I don't know for sure, but
they're required to be.
Well, yeah. So that's maybe it was smart. I don't know, but Pebble Beach this week, and then maybe we can talk to Cutter next week and see the aftermath of what Pebble looks and feels like after a Pro-Am PGA. That could be interesting to talk about.
We talked to one of the biggest party guys in golf leading into one of the biggest party weekends in sports, because next weekend is the Waste Management that leads right into Super Bowl Sunday, which I had it mixed up recently.
Such a good weekend.
I saw somebody comment on one of my posts at this buds for you FORE, and that for check me out on Instagram. Check me out.
Check me out. Where all the cool kids are at,
Fuck off. Wow. But somebody Somebody commented, I'm surprised that they don't do a Wednesday. I was talking about how the Farmers does Wednesday to Saturday because they don't want to go head to
Yes.
head on Sunday. Sunday on the NFL, I mean that they control. It's weird how a conference championship Sunday has become this big because it is. They're like, wait a
Yeah.
minute, bing! It's 2 Super Bowls. It's kind of too many Super Bowls. That's where the
It's
Super
what
Bowl
it's
is born
become.
out of. Yeah, so it's a
Someone paid
huge Sunday.
$73,000 to sit 3 rows from the field in the Ravens game. $73,000 I saw.
Money
And that
well
was for
spent.
2 that was total for 2 tickets.
God, that
Insane.
sucks. So anyways, they were talking about why doesn't they, why I would think that this person was musing, you would think the PGA Tour doesn't want to mess with the Super Bowl. And I was like, au contraire. And I didn't use that actual language because I don't know if that's what you actually say. But basically, I was like, actually, no, they love, I think, ending the waste management on Super Bowl Sunday. It's the same thing like ending the U.S. Open on Father's Day. It's become synonymous. And the waste management being the signature party event, again, it doesn't need the title signature or even the money. I think it's still going to get some of the big names for the tradition around the waste management and just kind of the fact that it gives that atmosphere. They love that it ends a little earlier. They do start their final round a little bit earlier to accommodate television time because they want nothing more than like a winning putt to be drained on the 72nd hole, and then it just they pivot right on over to the Super Bowl with the national anthem finishing off, and let's go. I mean, that's the ideal world.
Super Bowl's on CBS this year because they do rotate with their network deals of who gets the Super Bowl. Super Bowl's on CBS this year.
Tony Romo calling the Super Bowl?
He better fucking not be.
I mean, that's the CBS team, isn't it? Jim Nantz and Tony Romo.
I hadn't even thought about that yet. Who is calling the Super Bowl?
Oh, did I just bust your bubble?
It better not be Tony Romo.
Jim Nantz and Tony Romo.
He just says, I forget what it was in one of the games this past weekend. There was one of the plays happened. I think it was like a fumble or something, and he said something along the lines of, well, you know what? I gotta tell you, that was a really important play right there. It's like, no, it's a turnover. No shit. Like, who are you talking to, Tony Romo? Like,
I absolutely love him, and I think I love him for the bless his heart kind of aspect of it because I know less than Dick about football. So as far as like the quality of his content, but somebody else pointed out how Greg Olson over on Fox is able to like just quickly, succinctly, and in layman's terms explain what happened on a play and doesn't have to dive into either the over wonky side of things or the over generalized like, oh shucks version. But Tony Romo and Jim Nantz doing the Super Bowl, this is going to be fun.
I'm so
what
disappointed now. No, that it's just confirming that it's Tony Romo. Like, here's the sad part: is that his Tony Romo's first year as a broadcaster, I loved it. I thought it was great. It was something different, the in-depth analysis he gave. But then I don't know what happened between year 1 and year 2. He just started talking a lot of stuff that, yes, it made sense, but it was useless. It was just a lot of useless information, useless things to be said to fill the airways. I don't know, whatever. Super Bowl's coming up. Look, that's going to pretty much wrap it up. I know we wanted to talk about how our Emergency 9 did last week. I can tell you right now, I'm going to give you the summary. Shit. My picks did shit last week, so sorry about that.
I did okay. And the way we're tracking this is similar to the way we do the way my other league does. We're just going to track the total money earned by your players and just see, at the end, where does it shake out right now? I got about a $170,000 lead on Andrew. Neither one of us did particularly great. I mean, I had 7 of 9 make the cut. As opposed to your 5 to 9. So I guess I did win the week if you want to call it that, but we're not going to call it that. Jim Nantz, by the way, famously has a house on Pebble Beach, and in his backyard is a scaled down replica of the 7th hole. Fun story every year that we don't get to. And I guess we are going to miss him. He'll probably, I don't know if he's going to be on the call and then turn around and do the Super Bowl. I can't imagine that'd be a long day, but then again, he is Jim Nantz.
He is Jim Nantz. He's probably done crazier before. But that's going to wrap it up for us here tonight on Divots and Pivots here on the Fantasy Sports Corporation. If you are into the Super Bowl, a big football fan, you can catch Bud and I actually on the Fantasy Sports Corporation's Super Bowl Super Show. I don't know what the actual title is going to be of it yet. On Fantasy Sports Corp. What is that what you're pointing at? What the hell are you pointing at?
Can you not see the screen? Yes, I'm pointing right to Fantasy Sports Court.
See, I thought I had said it. I'm sorry. Yes, I thought I said it on the Fantasy Sports Corp YouTube channel and on Rumble. We will be live for the Super Bowl from 9 to 12 on Super Bowl Sunday. Bud and I will be hosting a segment where we will be interviewing Chef Brian Duffy, probably most famously known for his work on Bar Rescue, but he's been on countless Food Network shows, HGTV shows.
Great meat guy.
Great meat guy. He's going to be hopefully smoking some wings, some ribs, and some steak for us live in our segment with him. So tune into that Super Bowl Sunday and all the great guests and all the great segments we got going on for you. Once again, I'm Andrew LeDuc, a.k.a. Mr. Malad. This is Bud Copeland at This Buds for you with the E. Don't forget the E. We love you guys. Stay classy.